Hi everyone, welcome to the Speaking Smart IELTS. This is an interesting topic. Let's explore together. Whenever people talk about studying abroad, especially in Canada, there's always this dreamy tone. Maple leaves, cozy coffee shops, and snowflakes falling softly on big red brick campuses. But let me tell you something. Behind every Instagram photo of a smiling student in a puffy jacket, there's a story that usually begins with 3 slightly terrifying letters. IELTS, yes, the IELTS exam. For many of us, it's the gatekeeper between our old lives and the new ones waiting across the ocean. And it's never just a test. It's a whole experience. A mix of anxiety, ambition, and a little bit of caffeine overdose. I still remember my friend Marcy, back in Cebu City, Philippines. She used to call IELTS her mini Canada. Every time she practiced her speaking test, she'd imagine herself chatting with a Canadian barista. "Can I have a double-double, please?" she'd say in front of the mirror, pretending to be in a Tim Hortons. It sounds silly, but that's how so many journeys to Canada begin, and with people practicing how to sound confident, while talking about their favorite book or a time they helped someone. Preparing for IELTS isn't just about grammar and vocabulary. It's about learning how to think, organize your ideas, and stay calm when your mind is screaming, "Oh no, what if I forget the word for pollution?" Every student has a different ritual. Some record themselves speaking. Others listen to BBC podcasts every night. I knew a guy who would watch Friends without subtitles, over and over again, just to pick up natural expressions. When he finally got to Canada, he was disappointed that nobody actually said, "How you doing?" But once you pass IELTS, or rather once you survive it, that's when the real adventure begins. The moment you see that 6.5 or 7.0 on the screen, your heart jumps, and suddenly the world feels bigger. You start researching universities, checking tuition fees, calculating how many part-time hours you'll need to survive, and maybe Googling, "How cold is 20 degrees really?" Spoiler alert, colder than your ex's heart. That's how cold. Then comes the visa process. Endless forms, financial statements, medical checks, and those small heart attacks when you wait for the approval email. It's a mix of hope and panic, but when you finally see that magic word approved, you realize, this is it. You're actually going to Canada. Fast forward to the airport scene, suitcases packed, parents trying not to cry, friends taking one last photo together. There's a strange silence between excitement and fear. You're ready to fly, but also not ready to say goodbye. I've seen so many students go through that. Brave faces hiding the storm of emotions. They wave goodbye and disappear through security, holding their passports like they're holding a ticket to a whole new identity. And then, Canada. The first thing that hits you isn't the cold. It's the silence. Everything feels spacious, calm, and organized. The air smells different, cleaner, almost too fresh. And the people, they smile at you for no reason. Coming from a busy Asian city, that feels suspicious at first. You start wondering, do they know me? Why are they smiling? But that's Canada for you. Friendly, polite, and sometimes awkwardly so. Orientation week is a whirlwind. There's a lot of paperwork, awkward introductions, and a ton of free pizza. You'll meet people from every corner of the planet. Someone from India who's into cricket. A Nigerian classmate who knows how to cook jollof rice. A Korean friend obsessed with K-dramas. And a Canadian roommate who somehow thinks pho and ramen are the same thing. The first few weeks are a mix of fascination and confusion. You're amazed by how big the campus is. Buildings connected by tunnels, libraries open till midnight, and cafeterias serving poutine next to sushi rolls. You also discover that professors expect you to talk in class, not just listen. That can be terrifying at first. I once joined a business class where the professor said, "Participation is 15% of your grade." You could almost hear the collective gasp from all the international students. Speaking up in front of native speakers, it felt like an Olympic event. But over time, you learn that it's not about being perfect. It's about sharing your perspective. Canadians actually want to hear how things are done in your country. That's the beauty of studying there. Diversity isn't just a word. It's part of the classroom itself. Then there's the weather. Everyone jokes about it, but nothing prepares you for that first winter morning when you step outside and the air literally hurts your face. You'll see people walking casually in 10-degree C wearing just a hoodie while you're dressed like an astronaut. but soon you adapt. You learn how to layer your clothes, invest in proper boots, and always, check the weather app before leaving the house. Snow days are magical, though. There's something calming about watching soft snowflakes fall while sipping hot chocolate in a campus cafe. Some students make snowmen, others have snowball fights, and a few unlucky ones slip and fall in the most dramatic ways possible, only to get up laughing. That's when you realize you're not just surviving, you're living your new life. Of course, homesickness hits, usually around week 6, when you're tired of sandwiches and start craving your mom's cooking. You video call home and try not to cry when you hear familiar voices. Some nights, you just want to go back to your old bed, where things were simpler. But slowly you build your second home. In the dorm kitchen with your new friends, in study groups at 2 a.m., or in late-night walks when the city is quiet and the snow glows under streetlights. There's also the part-time job adventure. It's almost a rite of passage for international students. Some work in cafes, others in grocery stores or on campus. You learn more about Canadian culture through those jobs than in any textbook. How to say thank you at least 10 different ways. How to handle customers who complain politely but still sting. And how to survive an 8-hour shift with frozen fingers while smiling the whole time. But here's the secret. That experience teaches resilience. It makes you realize that every small thing, every essay, every shift, every lonely night is part of your transformation. You start to understand not just English, but Canadian English. Words like toonie, double, and loony. You also realize that sorry is the most common word in the country, even when no one's at fault. Friendships in Canada have a special flavor. They're born out of shared experiences, a group project gone wrong, a snowstorm that traps everyone indoors, or a spontaneous road trip to Niagara Falls. There's something about being far from home that makes connections deeper. You'll find yourself celebrating Diwali, Merry Christmas, or Thanksgiving all in the same month, and loving every bit of it. Academically, it's not easy. Essays, citations, deadlines, group projects, they pile up fast. The library becomes your second home, and caffeine becomes your best friend. But when you submit that final paper, there's a quiet sense of pride that no grade can measure. You realize you're no longer the nervous IELTS candidate practicing with flashcards. You're now someone who debates in class, writes research papers, and helps others proofread their essays. And just when you think you've got it all figured out, Canada throws you another curveball: tax season. Suddenly you're Googling how to file your taxes as a student and trying to understand what T4 means. Don't worry, we've all been there. You'll find a YouTube tutorial, or better yet, a helpful senior who walks you through it over coffee. Then there's the fun side: campus life. Movie nights, cultural fairs, student clubs. You'll find clubs for everything: anime, photography, salsa dancing, even competitive snow sculpting. Joining them isn't just about fun. It's how you find your tribe. And let's not forget the little victories. The first time you navigate the bus system without getting lost. The first compliment on your English. The first time you cook something that actually tastes good. Those are the real milestones of student life. Through it all, you begin to realize that studying abroad isn't about escaping your old life. It's about expanding it. You don't lose your identity. You enrich it. You learn how to balance 2 cultures, 2 ways of thinking, and 2 homes that both feel like yours. By the end of the first semester, you're no longer the shy newcomer. You're the one giving advice to the next batch of students. You tell them which jacket survives a Canadian winter, which cafe has the best Wi-Fi, and which professors love class participation points. And every now and then, when you're walking across campus under the falling snow, you'll think back to that first IELTS test. The nervousness, the preparation, the long nights of studying and smile. Because you'll realize it wasn't just an exam. It was the first page of your Canadian story. So, there you are, halfway through your degree, halfway between your old life and the one you're still learning to build. The early chaos of moving to Canada has settled into a rhythm now. You've learned which bus comes on time, which professors love class discussions, and which Tim Hortons makes the best bagels. You've stopped feeling like a visitor and started feeling, well, like a slightly confused local. That's when the real phase of growth begins. The part nobody really tells you about, the in-between, the stretch between I'm surviving and I belong here. For many international students, the second year is the turning point. The novelty fades and the reality of university life hits harder. The courses get tougher, the deadlines pile up, and you begin to understand why Canadians are so obsessed with coffee. Suddenly, it's not about passing anymore. It's about proving you can keep up. You start realizing that university in Canada isn't just about memorizing facts. It's about thinking critically, questioning everything, and finding your own voice. Professors don't want you to repeat the textbook. They want you to challenge it. At first, that's intimidating. You hesitate to disagree. You think, who am I to argue with someone who has a PhD? But slowly, you find your confidence. You start raising your hand, saying things like, well, I see it differently. And noticing the professor's smile that says, now you're getting it. That moment, when you speak up, is when the classroom stops being foreign. It becomes yours. Outside of class, the challenges are different but equally real. Money, for one. Tuition isn't cheap, and neither is life in a city like Toronto or Vancouver. Rent, groceries, transportation, they add up quickly. Many students pick up part-time jobs not just for income but for independence. Working at a cafe, a call center, or a library desk teaches lessons you'll never find in your syllabus. You learn to multitask. Finish a marketing assignment at 2 a.m., sleep for 4 hours, wake up early for your shift, and still show up for class. It's exhausting, but it builds grit. You realize how strong you can be when you have to be. There's something incredibly Canadian about balancing work, study, and play, and still saying sorry when someone bumps into you. That politeness becomes part of you without you even noticing. You catch yourself holding doors for strangers, saying thank you to the bus driver, and apologizing when you clearly did nothing wrong. But Canada isn't just polite, it's diverse in the most beautiful way. Every conversation is a passport. You might share a group project with someone from Egypt, study beside a friend from Mexico, and attend a Diwali party the next weekend. Over time, you stop seeing these as foreign experiences. They become your normal. You start saying things like without irony, and you understand that poutine is more than just fries. It's a cultural experience. Still, there are moments of loneliness. Even surrounded by friends, you'll sometimes feel the distance from home like a quiet echo. Birthdays without family, holidays that don't feel the same. But then, your new friends start becoming your chosen family. They cook for you, tease you, and celebrate your small victories. One day you realize that you're no longer just surviving Canada. You're part of it. Let's talk about winters again, shall we? Because no matter how long you live there, they never stop surprising you. You think you're ready, you've got the thick coat, the gloves, the boots, but then February hits, and the wind feels like it's slicing through your soul. Yet there's also a strange beauty in it. Walking home through a quiet snowfall after a long day, the world glowing under streetlights. It's poetic in a way. You learn to love the stillness, the slowness. Winter teaches patience. And just when you think you're about to freeze for good, spring arrives. The snow melts, flowers bloom, and the city transforms. The parks fill with picnics, laughter, and frisbees flying across the grass. You hear birds again. You smell barbecue smoke in the air. It's like Canada takes a deep breath after months of silence. It's also the season of change, job fairs, internships, and opportunities. The idea of the Canadian dream starts feeling less like a slogan and more like a possibility. You polish your resume, practice mock interviews, and send out countless applications. You learn to handle rejection gracefully, because every no gets you closer to a yes. And when that first yes comes, it's magical. Your first internship or co-op, the moment you step into an office or lab and realize, I'm actually doing this. You're not just a student anymore. You're part of something bigger. You start understanding how Canadian workplaces function. The unspoken rules, the polite emails, the endless meetings that somehow end with everyone saying, "Great job, team." At first, it's intimidating. You might worry about your accent, or whether people understand you. But very soon you realize that in Canada, what matters most is effort. People value sincerity over perfection. They respect hard work, curiosity, and kindness. You'll find mentors who guide you, colleagues who support you, and moments that make you think, this is why I came here. University life also teaches independence in quieter ways. You learn how to cook, budget, do laundry, and even fix things around your apartment with YouTube tutorials. You become your own adult, a little clumsy, but capable. And when you finally visit home again, everyone notices how much you've changed. You stand a little taller, speak with more confidence, and carry this quiet strength that only comes from living abroad. There's a moment every student remembers vividly. The first time someone asks, "Where are you from?" And you hesitate for a second before answering. Not because you've forgotten, but because home now feels like more than one place. Canada has a way of sneaking into your identity. You start missing the smell of pine trees and the sound of crunching snow just as much as you miss street food and motorbikes back home. By your 3rd or 4th year, you've built your rhythm. You know where to get the best deals on textbooks, where to find peace when you're stressed, and how to write a killer essay at the last minute. You've probably also learned that coffee and deadlines are best friends, but you've also grown in ways you couldn't imagine when you were just that nervous IELTS test taker. You've learned to present confidently, to collaborate across cultures, to think critically, and to express yourself in ways that connect. You've discovered parts of yourself that only reveal themselves in challenge. Patience, empathy, adaptability. And one day, as graduation approaches, it hits you. You made it. The ceremony might be small, the weather unpredictable, it always is. But it's one of those moments that glows in your memory forever. You stand there in your gown, camera flashes everywhere, surrounded by friends who've become family. You remember your first IELTS speaking test, your first snow, your first essay, your first job. And suddenly, all the sleepless nights make sense. The speeches talk about dreams, future, and making a difference. But what you really feel is gratitude. Gratitude for the professors who pushed you, for the friends who fed you instant noodles when you were broke, for your family back home who believed in you even when you doubted yourself. Gratitude for the country that welcomed you, challenged you, and changed you. Because that's what Canada does. It doesn't change you overnight. It shapes you quietly, like water shaping stone, through patience, through kindness, through every tiny moment of resilience. After graduation, the question everyone faces is, what now? Some return home, bringing back skills, stories, and a new perspective. Others stay, applying for work permits, finding jobs, and slowly building their Canadian dream. Either way, it's not the end of a journey, but the beginning of a new one. You might find yourself missing your student days, the laughter, the struggles, the late-night study sessions. You'll look at younger students and think, that used to be me. And in a way, that's the beauty of it. Every generation of international students carries a piece of the same story. The accents, the cultures, the languages might differ, but the heartbeat is the same: courage, curiosity, and hope. And when people back home ask you, "What's life in Canada like?" you'll smile, because it's impossible to explain in one sentence. You might say, "It's peaceful," or "It's cold," or "It's polite." But deep down, you know it's more than that. It's a feeling of belonging, of becoming, of realizing that the world is both vast and kind. Even years later, you'll still carry bits of Canada with you. The IELTS, the maple syrup addiction, the love for silence and space. And maybe, when it rains, you'll remember those long walks to class with snow melting into puddles, and how that felt like freedom. You'll think about that first IELTS exam, how scared you were, how far you've come, and maybe, just maybe, you'll whisper a quiet thank you to your younger self for not giving up. Because studying abroad isn't just about getting a degree. It's about becoming someone who can stand anywhere in the world and feel at home. And so, if you're listening to this, dreaming of Canada while buried under IELTS practice tests, remember this: you're not just studying for an exam, you're preparing for a transformation. Every reading passage, every listening test, every essay, it's a step toward a new version of yourself. One day, you'll walk through a Canadian campus, the air crisp and full of possibilities, and realize this is what I was working for. The courage, the tears, the laughter, they all led you here. And when you sip your first real double-double after a long day of lectures, you'll smile and think, I made it. Not just to Canada, but into the person I was meant to become. Thank you for joining today's episode of our podcast journey. Remember, behind every IELTS score lies a story of courage, growth, and dreams that reach across oceans. So keep believing, keep preparing, and one day, you'll have your own chapter to tell.